Happy Friday, friends. Matt with Eddie's Guitars coming to you, as always, from St. Louis, Missouri, and we sure appreciate you joining us for today's Acoustic Guitar Showcase. We've got some really incredible guitars to check out today. And we're starting off with an awfully little instrument today. This is a Veillette. Gryphon. This is a very short scale little 12-string instrument that is really a lot of fun. And if you need maybe a little bit of a vibe of like a mandolin in your music, this is a pretty nice instrument that you can add without having to completely learn a new instrument that really gives you some voicings in the lane of a mandolin at the very least. And that's thanks to its doubled strings here. It is a 12-string, but not a 12-string in the sense that some of them are octaves of an original key note. So all of these strings share the same note, if you follow me there, all the way down, and really makes for a very kind of almost chorusing effect within just even standard chords that you might already know and play. In terms of tuning, this instrument is tuned from D to D. So they kind of advertise that if you capo this instrument at the second fret, of course, you're then tuned from E to E, and then you can very easily play along with a standard tuned guitar in sort of the same chord shapes, but of course, an octave higher with the kind of chorus notes there. So really a fun little instrument, and again, gives you a very, very different sound compared to your typical guitar tones without having to learn a new instrument, which is really nice. The scale length on this guitar, for reference, is 18 1/8 inches. So, of course, it's tuned pretty high. You can see if we take a look at the top here, we've got a solid Sitka spruce top. Back and sides are solid mahogany, Honduran mahogany on the back and sides here. You can see a single bolt sort of neck joint here on this, fully loaded with strap buttons. Also has a Fishman pickup in there, so ready to plug in and play. All the way up on the headstock, you can see the Avante by Veillette there, or Veillette, sorry. Black tuning machines as well. Kind of a nice cherry stained back and neck there, but again, just a durable, fun little instrument with a cool voice. Put that in a recording with a touch of reverb on there. That'd be a pretty nice little touch there.
Pretty
Everyone
sweet little
say hello
guy.
to my good friend Mr. Alejandro behind the controls.
What's up, everyone? I like the two little sound holes out front there.
Yeah, the offset sound holes
Pretty
and the kind of the dramatic deep cutaway on it as well. It's sort of a radical looking design, but you listen to it and again it sort of gives you like kind of mandolin vibes to me.
Yeah.
Which is pretty cool, but right off the bat, we're getting to the largest guitar. We're going from the smallest instrument to the largest instrument, right back to back there. And this beautiful large 12-fret guitar is an Atkin Hawaiian Master. Very much so based on kind of the old Hawaiian style 12-fret, kind of pre-war Gibson instruments that were definitely big, loud, powerhouse instruments, but very lightly built, which is exactly what this guitar is. It's very lightly built. You can really feel the top really moving with the bass response as you dig into this guitar, and pretty darn satisfying to hear that. But take a look at this guitar. Well, I'd like to hear it a little bit here. Bass response. Andra, if you could indulge us here, I'd love to take a close-up of the sort of patina on this guitar, which is very, very vibey. You can see we started with a baked Sitka spruce top that has had the beautiful tobacco sunburst applied to it, very much so in that kind of late 30s, early 40s style. You can see that subtle tiger stripe pickguard there as well, definitely adding to that kind of old school vintage vibe. You can see the off-white binding, just single layer, simple binding with no purfling anywhere on the body of the guitar with a matching rosette there. Back and sides of this guitar are a dark walnut stained set of straight grain Honduran mahogany. It is pretty dark, and if I get it in the light reflections there, you can see the aged lacquer checking all throughout this guitar, and it is all over, including on the sides as well as the top. If we take a look at the headstock, we'll see that black veneer on there and the Hawaiian Master Tour de Force. Pretty awesome. Really, really cool headstock there, and we all know what that's kind of referencing. Old Roy Smeck vibes for sure. Very great looking headstock. We've got the 3 on a plate tuning machines, again, very vintagey with the Ivoroid buttons there. The neck on this guitar has the 1 3/4 inch nut width, which is kind of a standard that we order from Atkin, however, not technically the standard for what they build themselves. So we up that a little bit to that nice 1 3/4 nut. This particular guitar has a little bit more substantial feeling neck than some of the previous Atkin guitars that we've had in. It's got a beautifully chunky C neck. Now, it's not the biggest neck in the store, don't misunderstand me there, but a nice substantial feeling chunky C neck there, which again, just for the vibe of this guitar, really matches it beautifully. We also have a nice wide 2 1/4 spacing down here at the Rosewood bridge as well. Everything has been braced using Adirondack spruce braces that have been seemingly aggressively scalloped out, because like I said, the tone of this is mature, it's fat, and it just has that fat thumping bottom end. It's really decibels are not a problem for this guitar. It puts it right out there without any problem. Big old loud guitar. And yet continues the wonderful lineage of Atkin guitars that we've been getting in here that have just been continuing to completely blow us away. A lot of fun.
Yeah, that thing's a cannon.
Yes, it is.
Got some greetings from our loyal fans here. John Lord from Montana.
Awesome, John.
John Kin from Norway.
Beautiful.
Long way. Aficionado Lure Company, as always.
Awesome.
David
Great to have
Vandermolen saying hi from sunny Grand Rapids.
Awesome. Dave?
Jason Caruso from Melbourne.
Down under.
Down under.
Nice.
Yes.
All over.
Matthew Pesquet tuning in from NYC tonight, and he is curious why there's no redwood on the wall today. What's up with that?
Boy, we have failed everyone, have we not? No redwood in this room,
No
in
redwood.
fact. Don't call us out on that again. I'm getting...
And just a quick question before we get into this Collings. Rod Air was curious about your impressions on the McPherson Sable and touring guitars.
Oh, yeah.
And similarly, part two question, on the Emerald X20 guitars.
Sure.
Are they similar in size to the Sable?
You know, I shouldn't speak to the Emerald. The only Emerald that we've actually had through the store here was an X20 harp guitar. So that obviously is very much so its own thing. Believe it or not, I've never played one of the standard X20 guitars from Emerald. I would like to. I can speak to the Sable and the touring models, of course, from McPherson, both of which, if you're on the fence about either of those, let me help nudge you over to the right side of the fence. They're both outstanding instruments. And in terms of the all-carbon sort of idea, I've never heard one that has impressed me as much as specifically the Sable model from McPherson. Fantastic guitar that will handle more than you think it'll handle, stylistically, tuning-wise, all that stuff. So size-wise, the the Sable is based on the McPherson Camriel model, which is roughly a grand concert size. It's not a huge guitar. Of course, it has that generous Florentine cutaway as well, which is really nice. But that Sable and the touring model both just have this very, as they should, solid feel to them, just this really durable feel, and which it just is great to kind of have something that feels like that maybe you'll be, taken outside or traveling with or whatever. But the Sable specifically is awesome. If size is a factor, the touring model is awesome too. So they both sound great.
Excellent.
Thanks for your question. Folks, we have reached a guitar that I have to tell you I have been really enjoying getting to know. This is sort of a new variation on a Collings OM-1 traditional, and we've had many, many, many different variations of the Collings OM-1 traditional through our shop with different wood types, sunbursts, finish types, bake tops or not, so on and so forth. This is the first of its kind that we have had with sort of a new offering that Collings now has on their menu, the old growth Sitka Spruce. And Hondro, before we get too far, I really want to show off just the visuals of how wonderful and mature this top looks. It absolutely has just a beautifully naturally seasoned look to it. I should mention this is one of the vintage satin models, if you haven't realized that already, due to the kind of lack of reflection there with the light. But really just an incredible specimen of Sitka spruce here. Nully at Collings was kind enough to fill me in on a little bit of background. The wood supplier that they get this wood from is enthusiastic about finding reclaimed woods, and he kind of makes it a point up in Alaska to find downed bridges or demolished bridges old, float camps, all sorts of different sources for this beautiful old growth Sitka spruce. And oftentimes they come across examples that are just jaw-dropping like this. And of course, Collings, I'm sure, is on speed dial for folks like this. And they are now offering this incredible old growth Sitka spruce. And in conversation with Nolly there at Collings, I kind of said, what do you think it does? You've built some guitars with this, in your guys' ingredients. How do you think this fits? And he really enthusiastically told me, he goes, listen to it. It just has an extra open sound, which I can attest to, and we will hear as well. I've also noticed the substantiality in the bottom end, specifically in this guitar at least, and I hope that that's a theme moving forward with this wood, but it has a very planted bottom end, just substantial bass response that's really great in kind of a small guitar like this that puts out a kind of a muscular kind of tone. So all that said to say, I'm really blown away by this top on this guitar, and we'll be ordering a whole lot more of this old growth Sitka, and certainly in this context, because a great mahogany OM is a beautiful thing. But as I said, it's got a very open sound, kind of effortlessly dynamic there. Another thing I've kind of noticed about, again, realize it's an entire guitar, not just a top that we're talking about here, but the presence of overtones that this guitar has. While it's not necessarily like a Brazilian rosewood or cocobolo or African blackwood type of a, huge presence of overtones for mahogany, it's got some really nice sort of a shimmer effect, a little bit of reverb kind of built in there, really nice. Look at this back while we got you here, Hondro. Honduran mahogany on the back and sides, of course, for the OM1. Very, very, very thin, almost barely there. Walnut back strip going down the center of the back. Of course, we've got the nice tortoiseshell binding all around the body of the guitar. We've got the ebony veneer on the face of the headstock with that beautiful gold mother of pearl Collings logo. We've got the aged nickel Waverly tuning machines there. And this has the standard 1 3/4 inch nut with the standard Collings traditional profile neck, and of course the wonderful 2 5/16 spacing down here at the ebony bridge as well. All of the traditional series Collings guitars are braced with Sitka spruce, again, nicely scalloped out in kind of a pre-war style, forward shifted pre-war style. Killer tone to this guitar though. Very mature right out of the box.
David Vandermellen is mentioning that he's seeing more satin finishes on high-end acoustics. Is there any reason for that?
I'm not mad about that at all. Honestly, it's just a matter of, personal preference and having one more option out there for the end user. And I don't think anyone who builds a guitar of this quality is going to put a matte or a semi-gloss or a satin finish on a guitar that looks shoddy, or half thought out. I think these are very well thought out and developed techniques that folks are using to get to these end results. But I mean, on that guitar in particular, and I have said this in the past and will say it, I'm sure, again in the future, specifically about mahogany guitars, because mahogany has sort of that nice uniform kind of look to it. A satin finish over that almost is like a, think of like a nice mahogany, cabinet or drawers or whatever. Just has that nice earthy, natural kind of vibe to it. But I've even seen really dramatically figured African blackwood and cocobolo guitars finished in satin. You think of somebody like Loudon that has the very kind of hand-rubbed looking finish. And some of those really dramatic tone woods look awesome under that kind of softer kind of presentation there. Yeah. Folks, we have reached a completely mesmerizing Bourgeois. This is an OM deep body 42 style OM. Hondro, let's indulge ourselves if we could, please. We've got a sickeningly wonderful Sitka spruce top. This is of the Bearclaw age tone variety. This is Dana Bourgeois' proprietary torrefaction process. Of course, we can see the incredible Bearclaw figure in this incredible Sitka top. Just wonderful stuff to look at, even better to listen to, if I dare say. In 42 style fashion, you can see that beautiful, colorful abalone shell going around the perimeter of the top, around the fingerboard extension, as well as around the sound hole there. Really beautifully intricate work all the way around. Of course, that is all done by hand, you better believe it. We saw that not too long ago ourselves in person, and it was a pleasure to see such wonderful attention to detail in the flesh. Back and sides of this guitar are an absolutely filthy set of Brazilian rosewood. One of my perhaps favorite looking sets that I've seen all year so far. Just a high definition set of Brazilian rosewood. It's a little on the dark side, so I apologize for the reflections there, but it is really a thing of beauty. Gorgeous grain there. The entire guitar, you can see, is bound in that beautiful curly koa binding, giving it that nice kind of golden frame around the fingerboard as well as around the headstock. You can see that headstock is a beautiful dark Brazilian rosewood veneer. We have the presentation headstock inlay done in mother of pearl going all the way up the center there. We also have the DB snowflake inlays going down the fingerboard there. We have the gold engraved tuning machines there by Waverly. And of course, this guitar has the standard 1 3/4 inch nut width, the standard beautiful, beautiful shape, kind of a soft V profile from Bourgeois, one of my all-time favorite neck profiles, and 2 5/16 spacing down here at this beautiful Brazilian rosewood bridge. Should have mentioned the fingerboard and the bridge are also both Brazilian rosewood. The standard for these parts typically would be ebony. We went all out in every other place on the guitar, so we figured why not top it off with some more Brazilian rosewood, which again has been fully inlaid with the beautiful snowflake inlays there. So incredible voice to this guitar, and if I didn't emphasize it enough earlier, this OM is a deep body, so we have a 4 and I believe 3/4 inch depth here at the tail, which is deeper than the standard OM. Already just a really complex tone out of a brand new guitar. This thing is going to be really something before too long, and it already is. Incredible, incredible work from Bourgeois.
Matt, say hi to Jeff Jewitt. He's hanging around the chat.
Mr. Jewitt, so good to have you. Stick around. We've got a outrageous guitar we're going to be listening to in just a little while here.
I got a question for you from Kingdom Guitars.
Yeah.
Do you have any experience with Wilborn guitars? The design he's using with the 3D sound hole and unique bracing on his Kama series guitars is very intriguing.
I hate to say no. I've got no experience with Wilborn. I know that name, and I feel like I've got a picture in my head of what you're referring to, but I'm going to, after the live stream, make sure I educate myself. Thanks for the tip there. And who was that again? Kingdom Guitars?
Yeah.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
Check it out.
Folks, another new acquisition from our friends across the pond at Atkin Guitars. The first that we've had of its kind, for sure. Yet another guitar that I have been having way too much fun getting to know here. This is a kind of a custom variation on their OM-37. Their OM-37 is very much so your herringbone style guitar, if you will. This is a custom variation in the Tonewood selection, which we will take a look at now, and then we'll gladly take a listen. We've got a baked Sitka spruce top, which is standard treatment for the OM-37. And once again, we have that nice sort of crackle-aged finish with a nice checking in that light lacquer finish that they apply to these guitars, but a beautiful, clean, baked Sitka spruce top on this guitar. Really nice. As I said, we've got the very classic herringbone trim going around the top of the guitar. Again, kind of that very, very classic rosette as well, matching the herringbone. Back and sides of this guitar are a really lovely set of curly koa. And I gotta say, just in the context of the rest of this guitar, voicing wise and even visually, it's really sort of a welcomed breath of fresh air of something different other than sort of a variation of Rosewood. We stick with the very traditional zigzag back strip, doesn't change anything there at all. Very simple, no purfling on the back of this guitar at all. Very kind of old school there. And again, the pairing of koa and Sitka spruce makes for a very well balanced tone. A little bit more shimmer in the sound than what we typically get out of the Rosewood variation. Perhaps touch more brightness and upper mid range as well. All the way up on the headstock, you can see a nice quarter sawn Indian rosewood veneer with that nice Atkin decal logo all the way up top there. We've got the Godot aged tuning machines there, the open gear. Very period correct looking for sure. And of course, we've got the notched diamond and square short pattern inlay on the fingerboard here as well. And again, nice shimmery tone in this guitar. Say I really appreciate the fact that there's a great presence of bottom end there. Occasionally a koa guitar can sometimes be a touch lacking in that nice just big bass response, and this one is right there, right under your fingers. I think there's still some people out there sleeping on the Atkin guitars, and we're going to make sure we change that. This is another one I should mention. We've got the 1 3/4 nut with the 2 1/4 spacing down here at the bridge. This is another that I've got to say has a little bit more substantial feeling neck than like the last batch of Atkin guitars that we got in. So if you like a little bit more meat on your necks, this might be right up your alley. Really good neck.
Very sweet sounding guitar. A lot of sound coming out of that smaller-ish box.
It's both really pretty, but if you kind of hit it in the right spot the right way, it'll give you a little bit of that that old kind of woody snapback, which is pretty cool to sprinkle in from time to time, give it a little bit of attitude.
Yeah.
Wow. This thing has like an overdrive on it. Folks, if you were lucky enough to be in attendance of the at the Artisan Guitar Show, you may have seen this guitar. You may have been even lucky enough to play this guitar. This guitar was on display at the Artisan Show and apparently made a rather large splash, as I understand it. Pretty darn well received at the show. Of course, I insisted that the guitar come back here to make sure that I could play it, most importantly, before it goes on to its forever home. But this guitar has completely knocked us off the boat, out of the water, whatever you want to call it. We have been completely in love with this guitar since it has arrived at the shop. This is the Jeff Jewitt OM-CMT. This is a signature model made in conjunction with Jeff Jewitt and Mr. Matt Thomas. I'm going to go ahead and trust that everyone in our audience probably already knew Matt Thomas before you got to us. I'm just going to say it that way. If for some reason that's not the case, get out of this live stream right now and go search Matt Thomas on YouTube and prepare to be blown away. Absolutely incredible musician. I was going to say absolutely incredible fingerstyle guitarist, but that seems to fall very short in describing what Matt does. Incredible musician all the way around and very inspiring for sure. Anyway, Matt was able to work very collaboratively with Jeff on this model. This is just a few away from the original. He hasn't made too many of them just yet, but a lot of custom features in this guitar, starting with, if we could take a look here, Hondro, an incredibly perfect German spruce top on this guitar. Very blonde, very beautiful. I believe that this is a very, very old growth German top as well. And I believe Jeff is in the chat here. He might be able to speak to that a bit. But we've got all sorts of goodies, like I said, to look at on this guitar. So I'm just going to keep on going. You can see the rosette here. I'm going to get a close-up on in just a moment here, sort of a mosaic-style rosette that has cocobolo. It has Madagascar rosewood. It has turquoise purfling, all sorts of beautiful materials in here. I'm going to get a close-up here if I could. Just an extra deep, rich-looking rosette with the nice dark rosewoods, and again, that really beautiful kind of cool-looking turquoise purfling throughout there. I should mention that turquoise purfling also goes around the entire perimeter of the top of the guitar as well as the back and sides. I'll try to give you a close-up so you can see. It's subtle until you get right up on it, but it is beautiful work all the way around. We also have this mini bevel right over here, beautifully carved out, just a great feel as well. Even if you just touch it with your hands, it has a nice, very luxurious carve to it. The back and sides of this guitar are a filthy, filthy, amazing set of Madagascar rosewood. Just incredible. Quarter sawn, spider webby. Man, doesn't get any better than this. I don't care who you ask. Incredible set of wood here. Again, we've got that turquoise and maple purfling all throughout the back, framing everything in so perfectly. We also have the inclusion of a nice oval shaped sound port here, right in the upper bout. Beautiful presentation there as well. Definitely gives you a sort of enhanced sense of harmonic presence, just literally radiating out of this guitar. Beautiful cocobolo bridge and fingerboard, also bound in cocobolo all the way around. If we look all the way up on the headstock, you will see a book-matched Madagascar rosewood veneer for the face of the headstock with a matching magnetic truss rod cover there. We've got the Cosmo Black Godo 510 tuning machines with a Cocobolo veneer on the back of the headstock, just coordinated absolutely out the wazoo on this guitar. Really incredible all the way around. We will not neglect to show off this beautiful mosaic heel cap down here as well. And while we are at this angle, I would like for you folks to appreciate the wedge design of this guitar. You'll appreciate that this side is shallower than the treble side over here, which is kind of more away from the player, of course, facing the ground. But not only does this guitar have a wedge, you know, sort of that Manzer wedge style to it, it's more specific in that the wedge actually doesn't just go from the upper bout to the lower bout. It actually goes, I'm sorry, from this bout to this bout. It actually goes from the upper bout here down this direction. So Matt Thomas plays in sort of a neck upward position. And so this particular wedge design for him, especially when standing and performing, makes for a much more ergonomic, kind of delightful situation. And I tell you, in sitting kind of standard playing position here, as I'm in, you almost can't detect that there's really anything even happening there on the guitar in terms of a wedge design. There's nothing that feels off because I'm not playing it like this, if you follow me. So again, but we do appreciate a greater depth on the treble side, which I do think results in a little bit of a tone shift there for a very, very fat and sweet treble sound, but a very clear treble sound as well. Wow. Big sound, big presence, big overtones, big low end. That's pretty perfect. And I tell you, the intonation on Jeff's guitars are just frighteningly great. Terrifyingly good, man. Great neck to this guitar. I should have mentioned, along with all the Cocobolo goodies that it also has just this beautiful turquoise, these dot inlays that are kind of offset from one side to the other as you get to the 12th fret and beyond there. That nice, generous, reconstituted turquoise stone block right there at the 12th fret. Just gorgeous, gorgeous work all the way up there. Really, really nice presentation on this guitar. I'm not surprised that this went over pretty darn well at the Artisans show, but as I said, I'm massively grateful that I've been able to torture myself with it for a little while until it finds its new home. But folks, just like that, we have reached the end of the line. Handra, if you've got any final thoughts for me, any input from our friends that have been listening to these guitars all day, if you've been with us the whole time.
Yes. So Jeff Jewitt confirmed that is old growth German.
Beautiful.
And
how could it not be? Listen to it.
Yeah. And there was a question from Matthew Pesquet. Curious your thoughts on differences between Euro spruces, like German versus Italian, and then additionally comparison to Sitka versus Addy.
I don't do myself the disservice of pretending like I know the nuances between spruce that has grown on the side of a mountain in Switzerland versus on the side of a mountain in Italy or Germany or wherever you might be referring to. I really leave that part of it oftentimes. Let me say this. If it comes down to like a custom order type of situation, or if we just ultimately want the best example of European spruce for whatever the criteria is for that specific instrument, whatever builder I might be working with, I typically just say European spruce, you pick whatever the particular piece is, because, one piece of German might be really almost identical to another piece of Italian, type of thing. And two pieces of German might have wildly different characteristics. So it's a little unfair, perhaps, to overgeneralize the country origins of some of those, when oftentimes a lot of those are quite literally the same actual genus species. They're just kind of grown in different places, so different altitudes perhaps to a certain degree. But So I plead the fifth, long story short. Good question. Adirondack spruce and Sitka spruce is a little bit easier to answer because typically Adirondack spruce tends to be the slightly more dense material, and you tend to get a little bit louder soundboard and a little bit more explosive sounding soundboard that tends to have perhaps a touch more presence in the upper registers, a little bit more brightness, where Sitka tends to have a little bit warmer, cozier kind of a sound. And oftentimes that's because the trees or the wood doesn't dry to be quite as hard and quite as brittle and stiff as Adirondack. So that's a little bit easier delineation to make between those two species, but because they're two, in fact, very different species. Good question.
We got people picking winners right now. For John Kinn, this time I fell for the old growth Sitka Collings.
Oh, baby.
Something
I don't
about
blame
that
you.
guitar left me mesmerized.
There is a maturity to that guitar that continues to mesmerize me. No doubt about that at all.
David Vandermolen for the Collings as well.
Nice.
John Lord for the Jewitt.
Beautiful.
With the Collings right behind it.
Oh, boy. We need to have more Collings on the streams, I guess. Awesome.
Love Collings.
Of course, I'm going to ask Hondro anything speak to you. I know it was me playing, so let me apologize first and foremost, but...
The Veillette. No, I'm just kidding. The Jewitt, for sure. Yeah.
This
really
thing
like
radiates. It is a
mojo.
radiating guitar.
Did you show him the little magnetic truss rod cover? Because
I'm
I got
afraid,
a huge
I'm
kick
afraid
out of that.
I'll lose it if I do it on camera here, especially live. This truss rod cover, it's not anything Jeff necessarily invented, but it's a magnetic truss rod cover here, so you don't have to get your screwdriver out. Like I said, I don't want to do it. It's easy to come off, but I'm not going to do it on camera. Nice
cool
little touch though.
Yeah.
Don't have to have a screwdriver to make a little neck tweak and then pop it right back on. And as you can see, that's a powerful magnet. That's not going to fall off on stage and go in a dark corner. That's on there pretty good.
Yeah, you can even do your backflips.
Yep. Yeah.
Stay on there.
This is the guitar if you want to do the backflip. Folks, as always, we cannot thank you enough for spending some of your time with us on your Friday afternoon. We absolutely love showing off these wonderful instruments that make their way into our shop from some of our great, great friends that create these wonderful instruments. And we so appreciate the opportunity to share these with you. Of course, if anything speaks to you, reach out to any of us at the shop. That's kind of why we do this, so we can hear a little bit of these guitars. Of course, interact with you folks, which is literally our favorite part of the job. So we always appreciate that. Any final words there, Hondro?
Rock and roll, brother.
Indeed. Folks, enjoy your weekend. We'll catch you in the next couple of weeks when we have a fresh batch of acoustic guitars on the wall. And we'll